thank you indeed for staying on here on Daybreak Africa. We have our very first guest. He is a writer, Tosin Imogene. And of course, he looks at a couple of issues in life, but particularly emotional ones. And we want to look at how to make the most of your emotional situations positively. Thank you indeed for coming.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to
Glad to have you. Especially now that people can't even tell whether they're emotionally down or not. They just get going, you know. They wake up in the morning, they believe, you know, life has to be hard. Or perhaps they have to get some kind of blockages and flip-flops. First of all, let's look at the society generally. Do you think that Nigerians are going through emotional pains?
Of course. If you look at it statistically, with the statistics from WHO, that's the World Health Organization, it says that every 40 seconds, someone somewhere in the world commits suicide.
Every 40 seconds? Every
40 seconds. So in the next 40 seconds, someone else would have, you know, killed, taken their life. So in Nigeria, the federal government says over 30% of Nigerians are suffering from mental health challenges. And depression is one of those mental health challenges. So of course, that's when you say 30%, then it means that every 3 out of 10 individuals are going through, you know, mental health challenges. And when you look at it, Nigeria or Lagos, let's say specifically, there's so much stress, you know, the traffic situation, the economy, everything around us, you know, things are not just going the way it ought to. So psychologically it affects human beings, it affects Nigerians. So of course, yes, we're going through emotional pain.
You know, when you give those figures, I've actually come across some of these figures, sometimes up, sometimes down different figures over the years, statistics coming out periodically to tell us some of these issues, particularly those under some form of depression, or even going forward to commit suicide. And then the 40 seconds of each person going through that channel is really a worrisome trend. But when you look at the statistics, I mean, how could you imagine that a population higher than Ghana is in some form of emotional strain or the other? In Nigeria, 200 million, 30%, that's 60 million, if my math is correct.
Yes, of course.
That's huge.
Very, very huge.
Okay, you are talking about how people can come out of their emotional bad emotional situations, positively, and how to make the most of it. Foundationally, in a situation like ours, in an economy that is so wonderful, if I may use that word, like ours, how can people come out of that and still believe that they can get ahead?
Yeah, it begins with the mind. Because you see, the difference between physical pain and emotional pain is just the mind. When you're physically hurt, when you have an injury, you know, you feel it. But the point is, like, for example, if I have a cut on my hand, I feel it on my hand, but the pain is not, I feel it here, but it's actually in the brain, it's actually in the mind.
Okay, it goes deeper than that.
Yeah, it goes deeper. The brain is communicating with you that there's something wrong. Now, emotional pain is in the mind. So, first and foremost, it just starts with changing how you see whatever challenge or whatever situation you're going through. If, for example, you were sacked from a job, you can feel emotionally depressed, you could feel down and want to just, you know, quit. But just look at it differently and tell yourself, oh, maybe God wants a better job for me, or maybe there's something out there for me. So when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at, they change automatically. So you have to play the trick on your mind. If, for example, you lose a loved one, for example, someone dies that you know, when the person dies, nothing happens to you. Nothing happens to you until you are aware of it. Now, the moment you're aware of it, it's your mind, your feelings. So no matter what happens in life, it really doesn't affect us directly, but it's our thoughts about these situations, the way we begin to see it and all. That's why naturally when you worry, your blood pressure begins to rise. So it's just a mind thing. So changing how you see it and then beware of negative thoughts. I always tell people that when a rapist wants to, rape, it begins with the negative thoughts in his mind. He's achieved it in his mind before it comes out.
Okay, he settled there first.
Yes, he settles there first. So before things happen, you begin to have this negative thoughts in our mind. And you see, naturally, the mind is like, I always liken it to a garden.
Okay.
Naturally, all this, like a garden now, weeds grow automatically. You don't have to plant weeds. Or
they just grow. They just grow.
So that's how negative thoughts grow in our mind. But to plant flowers, to plant, things that would bring out fruit and all that, it takes a deliberate and conscious effort. Mm-hmm. So whenever these negative thoughts arrive, I've been sacked from my job, I won't find any job again, or I've lost someone, this is the end of my life, you need to now begin to uproot those negative thoughts, just like you're weeding a garden, and then begin to plant the positive ones. So that's just foundational. That's how it's been done.
From what you just said now, more like to be able to come out of one's negative emotional situation has to be deliberate.
Very
the fact that these things will happen, which is like the weed, I mean, you can't stop it.
Yes, naturally, you see, I always tell people that the world is miserable by nature. If, for example, this studio now, you do not sweep it, you do not do anything, and you leave it and come back in 1 month, what happens? You find dust.
Exactly.
You find, you just start seeing strange things. So, but to keep it in order, keep it in shape, you have to be deliberate. You have to take action. You have to be involved. So you really need to get involved in your life. You need to be committed to making sure that this is where I want my life to be. Otherwise, your life will just go away.
Just take charge of one's life.
Take charge, taking responsibility, full responsibility.
All right. Given that what the direction you've taken now takes a level of awareness, even for the educated, to some degree, we don't know. We just feel that, okay, we've got what we need for now, and there it ends. But what about the vast majority of Nigerians who are not aware? They're already in a state where they've accepted their fate.
And you see, we live in a society that is more entertainment-driven than cerebral, and, so just like, there's this phrase in the scripture that says, man shall not live by bread alone. When you think about it, you feel, okay, maybe not bread, do not eat bread, eat something else. What it means is that you need to feed your mind. We are only focused on eating, feeding our body. But what about the mind? And the mind is what actually controls your life. It's your mind. When someone is depressed, what actually makes people go kill themselves is when the mind says, do it. Go and jump off the bridge. It's not your body, it's your mind. So the mind is actually the ultimate driver of your life. So when your mind is malnourished, when you're not feeding it, then you see things begin to happen. So a vast majority of Nigerians are not focusing on the right aspect of life. The education in Nigeria, we know that it's really challenging. People are more focused on things that just bring them entertainment, relief, things that actually take them off stress. But there are things that are actually much more important, the salient things in life. And that's where we need to actually educate ourselves more, focus on or pay more attention to mind development programs. And you see that you'll be able to naturally overcome challenges.
Interesting.
So that's just basically, and you see, even apart from Nigeria, there are other areas where you see suicide rates are also high. So it's not really peculiar to Nigeria, but it still boils down to the fact that these people are not, the mind is malnourished, or they are not, because it's the mind that actually handles the challenges that we face.
That prompts us to do the things that we need to do. You also talked about pain. You're talking so much about pain now.
Trauma,
pain. How could an average person make the most of a very painful situation? I mean, the one that appears like the world is coming to an end. How can someone take advantage of that?
You see, first and foremost, the man, we are designed to overcome challenges. When you get injured in your body, you see that naturally your body heals itself. After a while,
with the right circumstances.
The right circumstances, as long as you're eating, you're taking, good food, good water, and, doing the right things, your body heals itself. So naturally, when you face circumstances, you're naturally designed to overcome it. But the thing is, we give away our power by, first and foremost, blaming circumstances, not taking fully, seeing ourselves as victims and not victors of circumstances, and just not taking responsibility. Oh, they sacked me, things are not going well with me and all that, not taking charge. So, like I said, you first review, change the way you see your circumstances. Pain, naturally, I tell people that as long as you're a human being, you are going to be going through one challenge or the other till you die.
Ceaseless.
Ceaseless. Yes. As long as you live, it's only the dead, Plato once said, that have seen the end of war. So what it means is that this life is a battlefield. As you're going through one challenge,
another just pops up.
Coming up. Do you understand? And you see, as you're overcoming them, you are actually growing. It's helping you develop. We're naturally not meant to grow in our comfort zone. If you had your way, you won't be here. You'll be sleeping in your bed, watching TV.
Or somewhere in the Bahamas,
of course.
Standing on the beach.
You're out here to make ends meet, to pursue your passion and all that. And you find out that you are better than you previously were. Do you understand? And when you look back, through hindsight, you see that, I'm no longer the person I used to be. So you see, I tell people that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. So you can
you repeat that?
Yes,
because
pain.
It's a food for thought.
Pain is inevitable. The challenges of life are inevitable. But to suffer from those challenges is optional.
But some believe that they can't do anything about their suffering.
Okay, let me give you this analogy. There's this man on Ikeja along that overhead bridge that's along. He's crippled. And despite the fact that he's crippled, he's not seeing himself as a victim, because you see, when you take that overhead bridge, you see him sweeping that bridge. So he hasn't confined himself because, okay, I'm crippled and nothing can, and just confine himself to begging. And if you're walking through that bridge, you see some other people who are able-bodied standing and begging.
It's about the mind.
It's about the mind. Do you understand? So whatever you go through in life, don't let it defeat you. Don't let it take full charge of you. No matter what, say, I'm going to make the most of my life. You see, you say things work out best for those who make the most of how things work out. So whatever it is, just find a way around it.
Okay,
find a way around it.
Let me just chip in this. We've been complaining about our situation in Nigeria that I know of, economically, politically, and otherwise. Does it have something to do with our thinking process?
Yes, you see, a large number of Nigerians are not taking the right steps. We complain about leadership, but how many of us are responsible
in our own private
space?
Affairs.
Yes, there's a saying that if everyone sweeps the front of their house, the whole world will be clean. If you sweep your immediate surrounding, the world will be clean. But you see, people aren't doing that. For example, you're in the bus and you take out your drink and then
throw the can outside.
Throw the can outside. You are part of the problem of this country.
But are people aware that they are actually contributing? Does it have to do with the way they think, the way they see the society?
It's the mind. Some people are aware and they do not care. Some are not aware and they need to be educated. So it still boils down to, because there is no Nigeria without Nigerians.
And without the right mindset.
The people make the country. So if the inhabitants are not right thinking, then of course they will begin to have problems. And you see, we will just continue to wait and continue to pray. But prayer does not build bridges. I tell people, you don't just pray and you see the bridge just come up. And prayer did not create, the lights and everything we see around us. Men took deliberate and conscious actions to make sure they put things in order. So if you do not take the things, if you do not take responsibility, then we'll continue to suffer the consequences.
Okay, we have about a minute and a half to go. How do we guard ourselves against some emotional, negatives that eventually lead to depression and, people taking their lives?
Well, it still boils down to developing the mind, developing yourself as an individual. Now, education is not just going to school. Someone once said, Socrates, education is not the filling of a vessel, but the kindling of a flame. So your mind is like your mind is like a seed that needs to be watered. And as you water it, it begins to grow. It begins to, mature into a tree that bears fruit, and those fruits, until it gets to being a forest. So when you do not develop your mind, whatever comes, shocks you and just takes control of you, and you see yourself misbehaving, or you just see yourself becoming a victim. So it boils down to educating yourself, developing yourself, going for seminars, listening to programs that would literally transform your life. My life did not change because I graduated from the University of Lagos. But my life took a positive turn when I started going through certain challenges, and I took a deliberate action by starting listening to motivational messages, listening to things that would literally educate, change my mindset, and that's how I began to soar. So it boils down to mind development.
Thank you.
When you develop your mind, forget it. Nothing can defeat you.
Interesting. Thank you indeed. And I hope somehow you're not just filled, but you're somewhere in your mind, something has been kindled, according to Socrates.
Exactly.
All right? Thank you indeed for coming.
Yeah, it's a
pleasure. I've been speaking to Tosin Imogeme, who is a coach, a life coach, and also doing a lot of research on how to develop the mind. We appreciate your coming here on Daybreak Africa, and hope to see you some of the time. Yeah. Because you've said a lot of things that you just scratched the surface. We needed to go deeper. Thank you indeed.
My pleasure, sir.
All right, we'll go for another break. We'll come back, and Daybreak Africa will continue after this time out. Please stay with us.